Okay, so I'm not very good at presenting in real life, so I am filming this instead. For my final major project, I am creating a magazine because I love magazines. It's going to be about real women, real problems, real life, and it's going to be completely unaltered, unretouched. So I set up a survey to find a name for this magazine because I wanted the name to also be very catchy and to have a meaning behind it that would fit the content. So I kind of started with real Zine, realist, body positive power, and then I found out that that was a book. And then someone suggested changing room, and I was like, I think that sounds good. It turns out the winning one was changing room. I see the changing room as being like the focal point of any kind of woman's nightmare or a woman's hell, because sometimes when you go to a changing room, it's like, am I going to look good in these clothes? Am I just going to feel even shitter about myself going out of it? Like, it can either be a good experience or a bad experience. It's okay to be not perfect, kind of thing. I'm trying to promote body positivity, 100%, diversity, as like no two people are the same, and no one's wired the same, everyone's different, everyone's body shapes are different, everyone looks different, everyone's been through different things. You can't always put a label on beauty or set a certain standard for beauty because no one's the same. And throughout history, the fashionable body has always been unattainable. Would you believe, though, the fashion industry calls anyone over a size 8, I think, plus size. So pretty much any woman that is not in the size 6, size 4, size 0 category is plus size. And to me, I don't like the term plus size, but we should get rid of the plus and just make it a size. I don't think anyone should be segregated for how they look or their size or that, but it's wanting to change the fashion industry rather than have people like bow down to it and train to themselves and be unhappy with themselves just to fit into a criteria, and it shouldn't be that way. And that's what I want the magazine to represent, is everything about not giving a fuck about anything, about these old traditional austere kind of standards that were set years and years and years ago. We're in the 21st century now. Diversity is becoming a big thing at the moment, and from the research I've looked into, bans on photoshopping models these days, especially in France, of what I heard about, was a pretty big step, is they're not allowed to alter anything in the pictures anymore. And I think that's a very important kind of statement, because for the longest time, obviously, since magazines have become so digitalized, women's pictures have been altered. I want this magazine to talk to anyone who is at that stage of not knowing who they are and being told what to look like and stuff like that. I want it to be a thing of, you don't have to do anything but be yourself. I want to talk about my market report, where I've looked at all the different layers of the magazine industry and how that affects their content. So basically I did a table like this. This isn't the final version of it. And I looked at, it starts here with general interest, which is like Vogue, Elle, Cosmopolitan, Glamour, all the glossies, as people would call them. And they tend to be very, very like full of advertising and mostly rely on advertising to survive, basically. And then kind of have the middle section, that the kind of magazines that have challenged this kind of diversity and aren't so glossy, like ID, Dazed, Wonderland, Interview, kind of offbeat, not Vogue, doesn't really have that much advertising. It kind of doesn't let the advertising reflect its content. And then you have obviously down here where it's kind of like niche market, special interest, kind of they don't rely on advertising. It's all kind of like rich in content rather than advertising, and they obviously, like, it costs a lot more per issue. So my favourite magazine, Buffalo, for example, I don't think it has any advertising whatsoever, if I can remember. And the magazine itself can cost around like £10 to like £30. So these are the kind of magazines I've looked at, like Polyester. Really love this. Only recently discovered this one, but it's shaped this whole idea for me. Sister, Girls Like Us, obviously Buffalo. And then I've also looked at trends in digital and print for 2019. 2019 from WGSN. So it's all this kind of self-love slogans, graphic, bold lettering, kind of revolution, girl power, collage type things, just pink, blue. So the colour scheme for my magazine is millennial pink and blue. I also looked at production, supply chains and distribution companies. So just to name a few, Frontline Distribution, which sells magazines through 55,000 retailers across the UK. And they kind of manage end-to-end magazine distribution from the printer to the shelf, and obviously magazines go through that. There's also obviously Mag Galleria, which is a small independent shop based in Bath, who sells all these kind of magazines that I love, the niche. I'm going to call it niche, but it's probably the wrong so. Then I looked at trends in visual culture, and something that I have loved, and it didn't even cross my mind to think about this brand at all when thinking about this magazine. But then I went on their website because I remember them doing this Real Beauty campaign, and it was amazing, like challenging Victoria's Secret and they used all real women in the campaign, and I really loved it. So Dove and their Real Beauty campaign has been going since like 2004. They are very anti-retouching, and they always feature real women, and they never alter anything. And Mario Testino, the photographer, shot the first ever. I think he shoots all of them, but the first ever one, that one, was shot by Mario Testino, and he said something like, "The way Dove empowers women to celebrate their own unique beauty has long resonated with me. I have always taken the same approach with my pictures. A photographer has a choice. They can take a picture and make it about themselves by even using avant-garde techniques, sometimes capturing the weakness in women, or they can choose to give their picture over to the women in front of the lens by making her look herself and making her feel most powerful." And I really like that quote from him, especially a high up photographer as he is. And then the second campaign that I looked at was a US brand, Glossier, most recent, I think, with promoting, I think it's a shower gel and body lotion range called Body Hero, and their whole campaign images were just women of all different shapes and sizes, and I think they were unaltered, but yeah, I just really love that kind of bare it all, more seeing like relatable body types in advertising, because that's how real women look. I set up my Instagram for the magazine. I set it up like 3 weeks ago now. I've just been putting up like pictures taken from other Instagrams that are amazing. I'm talking to some illustrators on there that I found that do some amazing illustrations. I can't wait to see what she comes up with for the magazine. And then I obviously have my housemate who is doing the photos for it, because she is also doing a project about unretouched pictures, so it was kind of perfect when that came together. We've been looking at photographers like Petra Collins and all the women that were featured in the Girl Gaze book. That kind of real imagery, I find it to be very strong and powerful. That's the market report in whole, really, and the ideas behind everything. So thank you for listening.